he saw, and they saw a great deal of inequities. The most important then was the level of education between the North and the South. Therefore, that the Northerners in the University of Nigeria. The Sardana and the people of the North got down to build up things from the Federation, to build up the North, to their mind, collectively, and the rest of Nigeria. The West under Chief Obafemi Awolowo thought likewise. And a great deal of sacrifice by the East at all points. First sacrifice the non-emergence of Dr. Azikiwe as the first executive leader of Nigeria. He vacated the place. He made the sacrifice so that the North for 1960. But to be able to accommodate the North that Dr. Azikiwe believed was already part of a nation, we got this rather odd situation where actually to wait for the North and so on. Yet your question, sir, was the question of the reason for the coup. So let me go into it. The teething problems of Nigeria after 1960, the independence, manifested itself in a number of ways. There was a friction over the preponderance of the North and beliefs in the country. There was corrupt, bad administration, and so on. But the real problem came from the West, which in toil. And the reason was quite a simple one. Where does a leader lead from? In the North, the Sadana from his agent was in the South, Prime Minister. Awolowo for the West is better, and he would be more have greater effect on Nigeria if he ruled from the Federation. So he looked, and his deputy, Akintola, he was quite prepared to leave West. What a funny thing happened during the election. A funny thing happened. Dr. Zikiwe, who also opted for the Federation, won the election in the West. And it now looked as though the EVN was ruling in the Midwest to rule
in the West.
in the West, acceptable to the West. We started our problems there because overnight the victory of the NCNC in the West crossed the opposition side and creating a new government. And this actually is at the foundation of the distrust between the Igbos still now and the Yoruba. Now, North broke down in the West after the second election. There was so much rigging. In fact, BBC had this rather wonderful statement. It said that men became pregnant overnight with votes. They know where the ballot papers. And as a result of that, and because by then Awolowo was in jail for treasonable offense, it was felt that the North used its powers so that Akintola, who became their stooge, won the election. It became very, very dangerous to travel around the streets with your car, and the phenomenon known as wet year, that is wet in wet year, throwing acid on people. The military was pulled out of barracks to help stabilize the situation. And this went on, becoming independent. We were seeing Julius Nyerere creating personality in Africa, Nkrumah there, and so on. Nigeria is big, and with all the promise of independence, was clearly doing nothing. It was that a group of young officers, electorate, the young had within Igbos, Yorubas, and Hausas. The way the Nigerian army was structured, you keep a preponderance of Igbo officers. And these were at the middle level because they were essentially majors. By then I was a lieutenant colonel, so I wasn't part of it. I was then commanding a battalion in Kano. The coup was ostensibly, because I've later found out that the whole this apparent drift in Nigeria was significantly, you know what they wanted to do? Mission of army officers, the nation, the idea was to release him. That is,
It was really the Yorubas and their leader that were going to benefit.
Oh, absolutely.
From the could not the
certainly not.
Okay, Your Excellency, we have
and not only that, and I think a lot of things about this. Igbo. Emeka Odumegwu in Kano, and Igbo. The Igbos halted the coup. How can it be at the same time an Igbo coup halted by Igbo? Not. But that's not that. I mean, the findings, the report.
Okay, the report.
The report is available, can be bought by anyone. It's been circulated all over, not hidden. The first massacre of Igbos in the north. We could, in that report, it was stated that the first, in the universal massacre that took place across the whole of Nigeria. We're talking in terms of 700,000 killed. If it's very, but we're talking of genocide. It's the intent that really matters. What was the aim of that? Then there will be no problem. I think if one thinks back, sometime you will know who used that term, referring to who.
Was the element of
the ethnic was at the same time the political, and when I say political, that is the search for power in the federation, and certainly that was religious. The North used Islam. Almost the same sort of thing. The solidarity of Igbo, that is the Igbo people, with the United States government in the events of September 11th. Actually, I'm personally proud of our solidarity. I always say this is an extension, but offering, and will continue to suffer the word aid. Now, the United States, we are sure anyway that she will vanquish it. But I would like her also to remember that
where the sympathy is with the United States because of the events of so we have about 2 minutes. Your Excellency. When the Igbo through the consultative assembly, Igbo land, sovereign and independent state of Biafra, Nigeria declared war on the young republic. Why would we call this war the war of genocide. The world would like to know again through this medium why the war was called war.
The word genocide is so large in its meaning that even when you're staring it in the face, very often you hesitate about using the term. But actually, the Biafran problem was nothing except being genocidal. There was no distinction. The mere fact that you were an Easterner in those days labeled you fit only for one thing, at the hands of the Nigerian authorities. The Igbos and their associates were killed in practically every village in northern Nigeria. Bridge, the very center of Lagos. People were looked at and thought looked at Igbo and killed. The very first officer killed in Lagos, actually, during that time was from Calabar, was killed on Igbos were being hunted out and killed. The Igbos that in Lagos, after the war began, were herded together and detained without any trial or anything, no question, legal rights. Till today, property of Igbos are still sequestered in various areas of Nigeria, and they have not been released, not all of them. The knows. Oh no, we're quite certain. In fact, it as genocidal as time, anything ethnic, an insult to humanity. And ethnicity became a term of abuse in politics. That's all. If it were today, certainly, what happened in Nigeria is much, much worse than what you have seen of Rwanda, not to talk about Eastern Europe.
Your Excellency, we have come to the end of the program. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the enlightenment. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching African Affairs, a DCTV program on Africa in Washington. Our guest today is His Excellency Ezigbo, General Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu. We thank you for being in our program. It's an honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next video. Thank you again for watching.
I hope Simon is doing something more than this. Don't want Everyone, I hope Simon is doing more than that. I don't know. I don't know if Simon is coming or he just want to keep us busy with that wonderful interview from our leader, angels. They're our angels. So let's see if there's anything more to add. I don't know if Simon is doing something more than that. Wait for him. I don't know. Thank you for joining. I know it's too late in Biafra land now. That's all from Simon. Think all from Simon. Everybody busy. Don't lose focus. Don't lose focus. Make sure you listen to it. Know that Biafra is not dead, according to Ndin meaning. That's, I think he's just one of, mm, that's the only thing I think do something for us. So
Reason for the coup. Remember, Nigeria became independent in 1960. We had a government, a quasi Westminster type government, with a parliament and a
okay, I think that's the only.
ceremonial president, reflecting as it were the Queen of Great Britain.
Okpaga,
That
thank you.
was
Affirmative.
Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe,
Yeah,
and Tafawa Balewa was the
thank you. I
president
see you
from the
guys.
North.
Yes,
There has always been the imbalance of the federation that was known as Nigeria. I remember when I was at school, I was taught that the great thing about a federation was that no federating unit would be preponderant in the arts. As it happened, the Nigerian Federation, when it was created, was given down to Nigerians from London. And that federation contained the imbalance of the North being preponderant, in fact, over the two other sides, the West and the East. And this created from day a certain degree of friction. The North could dictate, and the South, whichever part of the South, could just complain if it's not in accord with what the North wished. The first few years of independence were not too bad, but there were a lot of unfulfilled ambitions for Nigerians, because in those days we thought that once you got independence and everything worked and you joined the higher league of nations, internationally discussing what went on. In fact, to Nigerians, it looked as though, and indeed,
The thing don't
it
show.
tended to show that
Your own next person.
independence in itself was the
Okay, in the morning I go
achievement.
come.
Now Nigeria was free, yes, we're a member of the world.
What time you want make I
Instead of
come?
looking upon it as the beginning of our journey to nationhood. And I say this, and I want to understand, Nigeria was not, has never been a nation. We had the aspiration, hopes that Nigeria one day would become a nation. And that has been elusive up till today. The reason being that most unfortunately, and wrong. At independence, we in fact, the three leaders
Thank you.
of the country had different notions of independence. There was the actual leader of the struggle for independence, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, who rightly thought that independence now created, as it were, that we were already a nation and we were now finding our positions in his own philosophical, political beliefs in Africanism. So we just had to move into the broad continental alliance. The North, under the Sardana of Sokoto, was the Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, felt that the Nigerian nation, one had to tread very slowly, because he saw and they saw a great in Nigeria, and perhaps the most important then was the level of education between the North and the South. And therefore that affected the position of the North or Northerners in the bureaucracy of Nigeria. The Sadana and the people of the North down to trying to build up the North, taking everything they could from the Federation to build up the North to a position in their minds of equality between themselves intellectually and the rest of Nigeria. The West under Chief Obafemi Awolowo thought likewise, and took the position consolidating the West. The
Parents, stop. I have a message for you. There is this new app called Stir. Parents, stop. I have a message. There is this new app called Stir. Parents, stop. I have a message. There is this new app
Okay. Okay. I think that's is the voice coming out now? Please, somebody should confirm from comment section. Let me see. Our eternal leader, they are fighting with us. Biafrans, don't give up. We are here. Biafra is here. Don't ever, never you give up, please. Your life matters to me. We have crossed the Rubicon. Hmm? We have crossed the Rubicon. No going back. If we go back, it will be very, very dangerous. They will kill all our children. We will not have anywhere to fall back in. No why it is why I want to check again. Don't give up. Mgbe ọ na-ara ahụ ka ọ na-ebi. Mgbe ọ na-ara ahụ ka ọ na-ebi. Yes, if it is okay, sure. Please confirm if it's coming out.
The reason for the coup, if you remember, Nigeria, we had the government, a quasi Westminster government with a parliament and a ceremonial president, reflecting, as it were, the Queen of Great Britain. That was Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, and Tafawa Balewa was the president from the north. Now, the real problem with Nigeria has always been the imbalance of the federation that was known as Nigeria. I remember one thing about it, the federation was that no federating unit should ever be preponderant over. And as I said, it was given down to Nigerians from London. And that federation contained the imbalance of the North being preponderant, in fact, over the two other cities. And this decree, the North could dictate South. Could just complain if it's not in accord with what the North wished. First independence, not too bad, but a lot of unfortunate. Once you got independence, you were free and everything worked, and you joined the higher league of nations internationally, discussing what went on. In fact, it looked as though, and indeed, they tended to show that independence in itself was the achievement. Now Nigeria was free, as we're a member of the world. Instead of looking at it as the beginning of our journey to nationhood. And I want this poet has never been a nation. We had the aspiration, hopes that Nigeria, and that is elusive up till today. The reason being that, most unfortunately, the powers in Nigeria were concentrated in the hands of the North, which was preponderant, and wrongly so. At independence, we hope, in fact, the three leaders had different notions of independence. There was the actual leader of the struggle for independence, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, who thought that independence now created it winning. We were now in a position in his own philosophical, political beliefs in Pan-Africanism. So we just had to move into the broad continental alliance. The North, under the Sadana of Sokoto, whose agent was the Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, felt that the Nigerian nation one had to carry a great deal of in Nigeria, and perhaps the most important then was the level of education in the South. And therefore, that affected, of course, the position of the North or Northerners in the bureaucracy of Nigeria. The Sadana and the people of the North got down to trying to build up the North. The West under Chief Obafemi Awolowo thought likewise and took the position of consolidating the so as to ensure that at a given time the West would then emerge superior to either the North or the East. Again, let me go back to the problem of the East. The East entered independence having accepted that the nation was already there, naturally. That implied the East at all points. First sacrifice, the non-emergence of Dr. Azikiwe as the first executive leader of Nigeria. He vacated the place. He made the sacrifice so that the North could be accommodated. Second, during the constitutional conferences, independence was offered Nigeria before 1960. But to be able to accommodate the North that Dr. Azikiwe believed was already part of a nation, we got this rather odd situation where a nationalist refused independence to wait for the North, and so on. Yet, your question, sir, was the question of the reason for the coup. So the teething problems of Nigeria after 1960, the independence, mattered in the north, there's frictions of the north faculties about belief in the country. There was corrupt, bad administration, and so on. But the real turmoil, and the reason was quite a simple one. Where does a leader lead from? The north, in the north. His agent was in the south, prime minister. Awolowo for the west believed his position was better and he would be have greater effect on Nigeria if he ruled from the federal. So he looked towards Lagos. And his deputy, Akintola, he was quite prepared to leave the West too. What a funny thing happened in the election. A funny thing happened. Dr. Azikiwe, who was for the Fed, won the election in the West. And it now, as an Igbo man was ruling in the East, in the Midwest, and about to rule in the West. And this was not acceptable to the West. We started our problems there because overnight, the victory of the NCNC in the West was nullified by a number of Yorubas crossing from one to the opposition side and creating a new government. Actually is at the foundation of the distrust between the Igbos still now and the Yorubas. Now, not down in the West, after the second election, there was so much rigging for this and this. It said that men being pregnant overnight with votes because, you know, there's huge robes and you can stuff as many ballot papers inside them. And as a result of that, and because for treasonable felony, it was felt that the North used its powers to ensure that Akintola, who became their stooge, won the. It became very dangerous to travel around the streets of Lagos or the West, anywhere. That's when they started throwing acid at people in the streets, in your car. That is wet here. Throwing acid on people. And it was to halt this that the military was pulled out of barracks to help stabilize the situation. And this went on. We were not moving anywhere. The countries were becoming independent. We were seeing Julius Nyerere creating an Africa, Nkrumah there, and so on. Nigeria is big, and with all the promise of independence, was clearly doing nothing. It was then that a group of young officers, now let's get straight. The young officers had within Igbos, Yorubas, and Hausas. The way the Nigerian army was structured, you could not keep officers. And these were at the middle level because they were essentially majors. By then I was a lieutenant colonel, so I wasn't part of it. I was then commanding battalion in Kano. They could ostensibly, because I later found out, was to halt this apparent drift in Nigeria. What the commission of army officers as a safeguard, the people who would guard the nation, and hand over government to Chief Obafemi Awolowo. The idea was to release him from prison, make him prime minister, and in the hope that Nigeria would become a better place. Actually,
Certainly, the leader that we are going to benefit.
Oh, absolutely.
From the could not the insinuation that he was an Igbo.
No, certainly not.
Okay, Your Excellency, we have
and not only that, and I think it's because a lot of things have the Ojukwu in Kano and Igbo. The Igbo, how can it be at the same time an Igbo coup halted by Igbos? There's something odd about that.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The next question is, on May 29th, July 29th, will you let the world through this medium know the extent of this genocide? We know you established the Onyuke Commission that looked some of them that you can let the world know.
Well, that's no doubt. I mean, the findings, the report.
Okay, the report.
The report is available, can be bought by anyone. It's being circulated all over. We could, and that report, the first group was 50,000. Then, later in the same year, that took place across the whole of Nigeria, including the north and parts of the west. We're talking in terms of. So if its figures we're looking into, certainly they were very heavy. When we're talking, it was very simple, and the language might make people shudder or remember. It was to impose the final solution to the, that is, when there are no more Igbos in Nigeria, then there will be no problem. I think if one thinks back, sometime you will know who used that term, referring to who.
Was element of religion involved?
There are three areas. There was the ethnic, there was the political one side. And when I say political, that is for power in the federation. The third was religious. The North used this almost that we're witnessing in Europe today. Might you take this very early of Igbo, that is the Igbo people, with the United States government in the events of America. And I am personally proud of our solidarity. Always says this is an extension of that for which we have suffered, are suffering, and will continue to suffer if the world does not come to our aid. We pray that the United States gets out of this. We are sure anyone will vanquish the enemy. We care also to remember that in her pain, we showed solidarity.
AZ was speaking on behalf of all Igbos everywhere because events of September 11, 2001. The final question, we have about 2 minutes, Your Excellency. When the Igbos, through the Consultative Assembly, mandated you to declare the Igbo land as sovereign and Igbo Biafra, Nigeria declared war on the Young Republic. Why would we call this war a war of they would like to know again through this medium why the war was called genocide against the Igbos?
The word genocide means that even when you're staring it in the face, very often you hesitate about using the term. But actually, the Biafran problem was nothing except being genocidal. There was no distinction. The mere fact that you were an Easterner in those days labeled you fit only for one thing, death, and death at the hands of the Nigerian authorities. In practically every village in northern Nigeria. They were killed in many places in western Nigeria. People were looked at and thought, oh, this looked an Igbo. On the bridge, and so on. Igbos were being hunted out and killed. The Igbos that remained in Lagos after the war began were herded together and detained with no question of any legal rights. Till today, property of Igbos are still sequestered in various areas of Nigeria, and they have not been released, not all of them, to the Igbos, the original owners. Oh no, we're certain. In fact, the reason it is not called or not accepted as genocidal is because of the Cold War. At that time, anything ethnic based was almost like an insult to humanity. And ethnicity became a term of abuse. That's all. If it were today, certainly, what happened in Nigeria, what I've seen to talk about Eastern Europe.
Your Excellency, we have come to the end of the program. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the enlightenment. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching African Affairs program. His Excellency Ezigbo Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, we thank you for being in our program. It's an honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now you can relax and watch African music video. Thank you again for watching.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Biafrans, lovers of freedom. This is our eternal leader, Dim Ojukwu. May his soul rest in peace. And anytime you watch this video, please give it a like. Pray for his soul to continue resting. And remember, we are so make sure you like it. I encourage you anywhere, anytime you see anything you know that will bring the zoo down, go and like it 100 times. Go and comment 100 times. Go and subscribe. If you can't do what we are doing, do the one you can do. Remember, this year is our year. 2023 is the deal. Biafra is our goal. We are going home. We are not backing down. We have crossed the Rubicon. Yes. God bless you. Ada Biafra, love you. From here, I said, good night. I love you guys. Make sure you like it and subscribe to our YouTube if you are new. For the old ones, you are my strength. God bless you all. I see everybody. Opaga, Oramba, Frankie. I don't know. Please write something. Let me say hi and Bucharage small. It's not easy to be awake now. It's about, somebody says about 1:37, about 2 o'clock a.m. We are moving. We are progressing. Yes, so Obiageri one name. I see everybody. Thank you. God bless you. I love you guys. Good night.